Joining us now for Work Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin.
Good morning.
Good morning, Vimbai.
Good morning, Adefemi. Almost a full compliment. Your passports are resting.
Look at that. Look at that. Welcome back, Rufai. How are you? How was your trip?
Very tiring.
This is what they don't see when it comes to these types of trips. It's not easy, is it?
I mean, I've never been this knackered. I'm like, goodness me, I didn't just want to take the whole week off, but I'm so knackered.
Definitely.
I'm so tired.
I'm sure we are all definitely very happy to have you back.
How was your trip to Rome?
It was lovely as well, actually. Tiring, but lovely.
Yeah.
Felt good.
You say this is what they don't see.
This is what they don't see.
Do you know how many people around here who also love to travel?
And we should all go together.
Who lobby to travel.
Sure.
So that they too can use their international passport.
But we try.
Anyway, I'm not mentioning names. Please. What news?
Oh, they'll be following in Dr. Rubin's footsteps after his wonderful trip to Madrid, I'm sure. All righty. Well, let's start the world brief. After months of negotiations, the United States has signed a deal with Ukraine to provide Washington with access to valuable rare minerals and fund reconstruction efforts in the war-torn country. Now, Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko flew to Washington to put ink to paper for the deal on Wednesday. Now, announcing the agreement, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who we see on the left there, said the creation of the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund was a signal to Russia that the Trump administration was committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Trump's tireless efforts to secure a lasting peace, I am glad to announce the signing of today's historic economic partnership agreement between the United States and Ukraine, establishing the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. This partnership allows the United States to invest alongside Ukraine to unlock Ukraine's growth assets, mobilize American talent, capital, and governance standards that will improve Ukraine's investment climate and accelerate Ukraine's economic recovery. The Development Finance Corporation will participate and help to establish this fund in collaboration with the government of Ukraine. Today's agreement signals clearly to Russian leadership that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. It's time for this cruel and senseless war to end. The killing must stop, and both the United States and the government of Ukraine look forward to quickly operationalizing this historic economic partnership for both the Ukrainian and American.
Well, he also went on to say that no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. Now, the Trump administration did not provide further details of the deal, but Ukraine's Ministry of Economy said the details must be ratified by lawmakers in Ukraine first, but did say that the US would contribute to the fund directly or through military assistance, and Kyiv would contribute 50% of revenues from the exploitation of natural resources. Now, there were also some last-minute stumbling blocks, we hear. Ukraine reportedly wanted to make some last-minute changes. Though significant, it is important to note that this deal is significantly less than what Trump had wanted, which was to get paid back for all US military aid given since the start of the war. Now, moving on to Canada now. In Canada, we do know that, of course, Mark Carney was able to emerge essentially as well, he's already Canadian Prime Minister, but he was able to win the election, even though they fell short of being able to create a majority. And that is very interesting for the relations between Canada and the United States. In the lead up to the election, we know that the United States had many times referred to Canada as its 51st state, something that the Canadians did not want. So we do hear now that Trump is saying that Carney is going to visit the White House next week. And in doing so, his language towards Mark Carney has been very positive. He referred to him as a nice gentleman. But we don't know if Mark Carney is going to fall for the charm offensive just yet. Let's take a listen to what Mark Carney had to say.
Is also about recognizing that one of the responsibilities of government is to prepare for the worst, not hope for the best. As I've been warning for months, America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not These are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
Well, finally, sometimes the world of sports and international affairs do coincide. As some Arsenal fans continue protesting about the club's sponsorship deal with Visit Rwanda, the African country's tourism board has signed another deal with another top European football side. Now, Spanish giants Atletico Madrid have agreed a 3-year contract with Visit Rwanda, and their men's and women's teams will carry its logo on their shirts next season. Now, Rwanda's long-standing partnerships with Arsenal, Bayern Munich and PSG have come under spotlight after increased violence in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo, where authorities say 7,000 people have been killed since January. Now, the Congolese government accuses Rwanda of arming M23 rebels and sending troops to support the militants. Despite assertions from both the United Nations and the United States, Rwanda has denied supporting M23. Now, a section of Arsenal's support has formed a group named Gunners for Peace, and they are calling for the Premier League club not to renew its deal with Visit Rwanda, as the partnership does not fit the club's values and standards. They believe the sleeve sponsorship, which is reportedly worth some £10 million, which is around $13.3 million a year, runs out at the end of this season. What are we thinking, Rufai?
Okay, a couple of things. So now that Trump has got some form of a deal, as it were, the question is, what are the terms? And this includes many questions. I'd like to see the full draft of the deal. But there are many Russian-controlled areas that have been taken, the Donetsk region and all of that, which is also heavily mineral dense. So are they going to sign a separate deal with Russia? Does this deal also involve a term for peace, where Russia is saying that we have to take some territories? So if you have these 50-50 ports for rare earth minerals and all of that, and you share profits, to pretty much the property of Ukraine, and you use that money towards reconstruction and development like they've done in other parts of the world. They did it in Iraq after bombarding Iraq anyway. But the big question is, how does that now bring peace back? Will it prevent Russia from taking those territories and from consolidating on those territories, some they're taking since the 2014, 2015s? Right. I think these are questions we need to ask. I know there's going to be a triumphalist here at the White House by saying, we got some part of our deal anyway. But this is a very scaled-down measure, probably thanks to the Pope's funeral. I think somebody did say that's one of the first miracles, and that should be a part for saying towards Pope Francis' life, because it was at that burial they had that conversation after the ruckus they had in the White House. So we'll see how this pans out in the coming days, but it's not all over yet. We are not anywhere near it yet. Russia still has an agenda, which is to take most parts of the Soviet Union and consolidate. If you read the 5,000-word article of his intention and ideology, like you were saying, that's Putin's ideology. Right. For the case of Rwanda, there's a lot of spot washing going on. And this argument is like a double-edged sword. So if Arsenal fans are protesting, I get their protest, because Rwanda is definitely funding genocidal activities going on in the Congo. Okay. But if we want to extrapolate this spot washing argument, it goes across board. So should Newcastle fans also protest about the heinous activities Saudi Arabia is doing? During the war, Chelsea was sold because of this same case.
Abramovich and...
So if we want to stretch it, definitely you will see a lot of monies in the Premiership that has relationship with countries or nations or people that have been declared pariah. So if we want to go this route, then definitely everybody will be affected. So the question is, do we want bloody money in sport or not? But the truth is, you can never devolve sport from unclaimed money.
Well, there's that.
All right. Well, this was inevitable. That this is me referring to the United States deal that incorporates some sort of minerals benefits for the United States. Now, this is probably the first of 2 such deals that we're going to see, or potentially 3, because the U.S. has also taken a front row seat in the mediation between the DRC and Rwanda. They've been able to broker a deal, and that deal also, which should be released on the 2nd of May, also has minerals clauses within it. So this minerals for security exchange looks like quite a critical foreign policy for Donald Trump's administration, which is unfortunate because as far as I'm concerned, this is just a recolonization strategy. Now, if you go back to the Marshall Plan post-World War II, the United States had a similar strategy, which was the Marshall Plans were all about we're going to go into nations that have had, that have been affected by conflict and the Second World War, and we're going to help them rebuild. And this was, excuse me, this was a core fundamental as to how the Americans were able to build their economy and become a global superpower. So what we're seeing is history, well, they say history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So what we're seeing is a rhyming of that history, and it's now becoming clear that, well, Donald Trump's plan to make America great again is to try and restore some type of semblance of that post-World War II order where everybody relied on the United States, as opposed to what we have now where the United States is relying more heavily on their global partners. With regards to Rwanda and Atletico Madrid, listen, we've been debating for, I think it's been years now, about what does it mean to demarket your country. If you go out and you speak, you criticize what's happening in your country, is it demarketing? As Africans, I feel we should always embrace any opportunity for us to rebrand our continent as the dark continent. They are this, they are backward, they are villagers. And Rwanda has its challenges, but Rwanda is fantastic at creating this brand of how Africa can be modern and progressive and so forth. So it goes back to that debate of, well, should we be carrying our countries or our continent's issues to the global stage and demarketing them when there are things that we can potentially benefit from as well?
Okay, very quickly. The key thing about the Ukraine-US Infrastructure Investment Fund is that it will look like President Trump has been able to achieve his main objective, which is what is innate for him. In the same Ukraine-Russia conflict, which he says he will resolve in 24 hours, 100 days later in office, he has not been able to resolve it. But he has been able to extract something for the United States. This is the selfishness at the center of international diplomacy. And it's as follows. In October, November 2024, the Republic of China, as a result of the conflict between both countries, decided to cancel or restrict or stop completely the export of raw materials, rare earth raw materials, they call it, to the United States. 90% of rare earth raw materials are in China. So the United States was blocked from that. So the United States found itself in a situation where it's been looking for raw earth materials from other parts of the world. And now it just happens that Ukraine has it in abundance. They have lithium, they have tantalum, they have, other kinds of resources. That's what the United States is targeting. And now, in the process of saying we're trying to make peace, meetings have been held in the Middle East, meetings were held in Paris, meetings were held last Wednesday in London. They drew up what they call a 7-action plan. Part of that action plan includes conceding the sovereignty in southern Crimea and also in Luhansk and other provinces to Russia. And Ukraine said, no, that's not possible, because Article 2 of the Constitution of Ukraine would not allow them to cede territory. Now, they met in Rome, where you were.
Yes.
On the sidelines of the burial of Pope Francis. But President Trump expressed a lot of optimism. He says, well, he thinks that, Zelensky will sign the deal and Putin will also cooperate. Okay, we have seen the result of it. This is the outcome of that optimism by Trump. Now, they are planning to go and control the resources of of Ukraine,
Ukraine.
including the nuclear plant in Zaporizhzhia. Now is the economy minister of Ukraine that is saying it's going to be 50-50. Ukraine will still determine what and where is exploited, and that, Ukraine is still in charge of its own resources. No, you don't believe that. It's an unequal kind of relationship. So out of the 7 plans that they have, including conceding sovereignty of the 4 provinces to Russia, stopping Ukraine from joining NATO, saying that they can join the EU, and all of that. I listed this before in previous conversations. The US has grabbed his own part. So Scott Bessent and Trump, after all, they've already threatened that if progress is not made, they will walk away. Don't be surprised if tomorrow they walk away from this particular deal. Now, Rwanda, visit Rwanda. Well, Rwanda says it's into sports tourism. It's not just about football. Whether Bayern Munich or PSG or Arsenal, they're also saying they want to get into Formula One. Right? But, Arsenal fans are saying, oh, these people, they are doing sports washing, gunners for peace and all of that. But you see, it's not only Rwanda that is doing it. They are also doing it in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia. And now Atletico Madrid is trying to identify with Rwanda. The thing is that, look, these people, they will look for opportunities where they can get them. Mark Carney, don't put much store by his meeting. He is insisting on the sovereignty of Canada. And he won the election by insisting on Canadian nationalism. But when that meeting takes place, if it will, then we will see. But Canadians voted for the Liberal Party that was down in the polls because of the Trump effect.
Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, we are fast running out of time. Let's move on to our newspaper headlines. Let's take a look at the front page of This Day. Now, This Day does lead with news that Akwa Ibom State Governor Umoeno, a member of the People's Democratic Party, has hinted at the possibility of his own defection. He didn't mention a party that he'd subsequently joined, but he did liken the PDP to a spoiled plane no longer fit for purpose to take him to 2027. Now, both picture headlines on the front page of This Day show celebrations of life for the late Chief Ayo Adebanjo at the top of the page. And then there's also a picture from the mass service in honor of Pascal Dozier to the bottom of the page. May they both rest in peace. Now, the Vanguard also picks up on this issue with the PDP, anxiety growing as Akwa Ibom governor hints of quitting. Now, the New Telegraph and the Daily Trust, they do report on the Arewa Consultative Forum saying that the federal government's discriminatory policies are enabling hostilities, essentially saying that Southerners are not reciprocating the North's hospitality and calls for land reforms that will protect Northerners. Now, let's move on to The Guardian. Today is, of course, May 1st, Workers' Day, International Workers' Day. On the front of The Guardian, there are agitations of a cost of living crisis and essentially workers' welfare. That's what we're seeing on the front page of The Guardian. And then with the Daily Sun, we are staying on that same theme, and it does lead with organised labour listing 3 demands and also insisting that Workers' Day celebrations will not hold in Rivers and in Edo State. Very quickly, if we do have the pictures, let's take a look at the front page of the Wall Street Journal, I think it is, and it does say that on the first, yesterday we talked about Trump having 100 days in office. Today's obviously 101 days in office, and there is fears of a looming international economic slowdown. And then on the front page of the Daily Express of the United Kingdom, we do have King Charles thanking the people of England for their support during his cancer treatment. So those are your papers from all over the gaff.
Right, so we have time to comment on some. I think I want to come back to Governor of Akwa Ibom State.
Okay. I see that on the front page of This Day.
The truth is, isn't it funny how people behave? When they need something, they beg, they grovel. But when they get it, what they got it from doesn't matter any longer. Isn't it shocking now that these same politicians have the nerve to say that there is no ideology? What did they campaign based on? Wasn't their manifesto a reflection of an ideology?
This is it.
Isn't this Arise agenda a reflection of an ideology of sustainable development. So when you ask these people the question, just because of their own selfish reasons, they said there's no ideology. I beg to differ.
Well, we have to.
They are the ones corrupting the world ideology. There's ideology in politics, and it should be. You must stand for something. Your ideology is totally reflected in your policies. They should stop this bastardization of their own selfish interests.
Self-preservation could also be an ideology. I don't think we had kids like that. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. I wish we had more time. Well,